Hello, welcome to the Sweatbox here on RevelatorAlf. I've got a couple more tools in the box, and remember the transmission cover video that I said? Basically, I was making do with tools and I really needed some miniature Allen key wrenches, which are basically this kind of thing. This is a 1/4 inch drive, so you've got a 1/4 inch drive on one side, then you've got a hex Allen key fitting on the other side. I've got a range there. I got another one as well, actually, because I wasn't sure which is going to be the better one. So this is a mixture of screwdriver bits, hex bits, and also Torx bits as well. Anyway, so if I ever do the job again, I know what tool I'll be reaching for. Just to answer a quick question on the soft tails, I believe that you need to take off the exhaust just to make life a lot easier for yourself. On Taurus, you got a lot more space behind the rear cylinder to take off the transmission cover. Soft tails, it's a lot more condensed, a lot more cramped. So hence why I did that. There was another thing on the oil dipstick video, which was a bit of a failure, really, wasn't it? Anyway, it was basically because the probe that I had, it was a 6-inch probe, and I said 9 inches is more than enough. Well, obviously I was wrong. So basically, because I've got to prove a point here, I've got to prove that this temperature, homemade temperature dipstick works. I went and got a temperature probe that's in Fahrenheit and in Celsius or centigrade in old money. Yeah, and this goes up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and 280 degrees Celsius. Well, a little bit more than that. But anyway, this has got a 9-inch probe. So it goes all the way down. I'm just waiting for all this to cure off now because I've resealed everything. And I'll go and fit it on the bike, and I'll go and run it on the next video when I'm going to talk about something else, which is kind of flavour of the month, really, but that's another story. Okay, so what's the point of this video? Okay, so the point of this video is this, right? You watch videos like mine, or you watch channels like mine, or there's loads of others, of course. Now, I'm going to talk about Harley Davidson because I ride a Harley Davidson, but this really does apply to all manufacturers of all cars, all motorcycles, in fact, of anything, really. When they design it and they start selling it, obviously, in time, there are faults that develop, right? Now, sometimes manufacturers are really quick to rectify things. Let's say in the aviation industry, they're quite quick in most cases in rectifying problems. But in the automotive world, it can be quite a delay, and it really depends if it's worth their while. Now, being a Harley Davidson rider, I'm sure you'll know that there's lots of people out there, like me and many other YouTubers, who come up with solutions and fixes for problems, right? Let's just say like the rear fender gap that exists. Why is it there? Nobody seems to know. Why don't they just fill it in, or why don't they just have a fender that goes all the way down? Who knows? It's just one of those things. It could be a cooling issue for the battery and the electronics. Who knows? But you think, why don't they just fix it? There are lots of other fixes that I've come up with and lots of other people come up with. And you think, yeah, that's a decent fix. Now, granted, there's also lots of YouTube channels, let's say, or blog posts or whatever, TikTokers or Instagrammers who come up with an issue on a bike, whether it's Harley Davidson or anything else, and it's creating an issue for issue's sake. It's not really an issue. It's just somebody making a big issue of something that isn't really a problem, or it's such a minor issue that's, you know, not a thing. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong or bad, but it's almost like, well, you're creating an issue. There are also companies out there who are highlighting an issue or making something a bigger issue than it is, and guess what? They're trying to sell a product on the back of it. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, I'm not going to mention any companies out there, but you know who they are. And they're coming out with a product and say, yeah, this will fix this and this will fix that. And most of the time, you can come up with a homemade solution, right? Okay, granted, not very good. But another times you think, well, do I even really need to do it? So that's that aside, right? But let's just talk about Harley Davidson in particular, for my case, as a manufacturer. There are so many little niggly things that you think, why don't you just fix it? Why don't you just sort that out once and for all? And every now and again, something else comes up. Now, the latest thing that I heard was about sump plugs as well. Sump plugs on the M8 engine, they're a little bit too long naturally in the engine, so it partially blocks a scavenge line, which may make your oil pump more inefficient. So make a shorter sump plug, which guess what? Company like Fueling are making one, and you can buy it, and you know, it costs $12-15 plus another same amount for shipping or whatever it is in the same country, United States. If you want it shipped over here, God knows, it'd probably cost you a mortgage or something like that. But it's a shorter plug, basically, so it unobstructs that channel. Now, is it a big deal? Is it a big issue? Well, Harley Davidson don't seem to think so. Others are kind of making out, yeah, it could be, in inverted commas, a big issue. Nobody seems to really know if it is. I suppose if that channel does become blocked by any debris, then obviously there is an issue. But if it isn't, then the hot oil is still going to flow through it. If it's a shorter plug, fine, no problem. Lots of people in the comments saying, well, actually, if I just take that out and cut it down and put it back in there, surely that's the same thing. Or maybe I'll go to my local, you know, fixing supply shop, hardware shop, whatever, and I could basically get the same thread bolt, put a bolt in it, a short bolt, bish bash bosh, done. Either red thread locker it or PTFE tape on it, and bish bash bosh, done. So you think, well, you could easily do it, or do you know what, somebody could just sell you a ready-made part. I have no issue with companies making money out of it, but it kind of gathers momentum, isn't it? You know, people start thinking, oh yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. That's going to solve my sumping issue. That's going to solve this. You know, I've got to buy really expensive breather kits where you can make something yourself. So that's the beauty of YouTube for me, is that actually people can come up with good solutions, homemade solutions that actually don't cost you anything. Or they do highlight an issue and think, look, this is a product which I bought and, you know, it works for me and maybe it worked for you. I think sometimes the whole thing gets a little bit confusing for me. One hand, the manufacturer, whichever manufacturer is, you think, why have you made such a little mistake here, or a big mistake? Surely you guys are a lot more experienced, a lot more intelligent at these things than I am. You should have come up with a solution for this, or you shouldn't have made the mistake in the first place. Why is it up to us, like, you know, members of the public or boffins on YouTube, let's say, or any old dickhead on YouTube, and say, look, oh, there's a solution for that, we can do it. So, you know, and then when we highlight an issue, why don't they fix it? Why don't they listen to us and say, look, we've listened, and yeah, there is an issue and we're going to change it. Now, sometimes they do change things based upon public perception or a groundswell of opinion out there that says, hey, look, that's wrong, they need to change it. So they do change it, but they kind of don't pay it back and say, oh yeah, it's basically a load of people out there, Harley riders, who noticed this and we've taken their advice and changed it all. I suppose that opens it up for them to have to do a recall and then retrofit something if they admit that they're wrong. Whereas if they just identify there's an issue and they can say, no, this is just an upgrade, we're changing the design or something like that. And sometimes they may not even tell you that they've changed the design, they've just done it. Classic thing was the oil pump, wasn't it? The oil pump for pre-2020 or late 2019 bikes. Then problem with the oil pump, in when you upstage the engine, it wasn't really man enough or woman enough for the job, whereas 2020 oil pumps are a lot better. So it's this kind of thing, really. Oh, I'm sweating like a bloke on death row. Anyway, look, it's I just thought I'd bring that to you. I don't know what people think out there, you know, what people think of companies like Harley Davidson or Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, whatever it is, you know, Audi, I don't know, whoever. Isn't it annoying that there are fixes out there and then the company themselves don't even come up with the fix? And a lot of the time it's just a very cheap, inexpensive fix, and you would think, well, why don't they just do it? I mean, I'm not privy to, you know, the decision making within manufacturers, of course, but it does make you wonder what the hell's going on sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with my little workshop fixes for things, or little ideas. A couple of you have said, you know, really appreciate or really like the experiments I do on my bike. Yeah, why not? I mean, most of it is just for fun. I don't necessarily think there's a much better option. In case of this dipstick, no, it's, as I say, it looks crappy. But tools, having the right tools for the job always helps, of course. Anyway, I've got a couple of other things which I'm tinkering away on my bike. You know, I can't let it lie. I should just let it lie, just let it be. But oh no, because I'm probing all the time. I thought, oh, what about that? What about that? Anyway, but that's just me. Anyway, I'll leave it to you. Let me know. Do you think companies like Harley Davidson really should pull the finger out and fix all these little things that are wrong, or they're not really that good on their bikes? You know, should they just do it? Or should they admit they got a problem, or they got it wrong? Or should they just keep their mouth shut and leave it up to us to find the solutions ourselves? Let's face it, if there wasn't any problems or any little niggles, then we'd probably be a bit bored. We'd probably have to do something else with our spare time. But there we go. I suppose that's the life of owning a motorcycle or a car or a Harley Davidson in this case. Anyway, over to you, and I'll catch you on another video coming very soon. But there we go, tools for the job, homemade fixes. What do you think? Should it be up to the company to sort it out, or should we just do it ourselves? Catch you again. Ta-da.